Hello, everyone. It's Boki Ken here. Good evening from the Philippines, and I guess it's good morning to you there. So, we're going to be resuming our reading in Proverbs. We tackled verse 9 the other day, and now we're going to be looking at verse 10. It's quite a very explicit and simple verse that you should turn from sin. But I want to delve deeper into it with some solid commentary. But I'm not going to be staying long because well, thing is, I have to sleep, so we're just gonna go with the bits and crumpets. And there's a lot to say with this verse. I mean, there's like extensive commentary on this one, but right now I just want to go with the little bits and pieces towards it. So now I'm just gonna go share my screen and redirect it to a Microsoft Word window. Okay, I guess you guys are very familiar with this verse, and the way my son is used here is like the Lord telling you that my student, my disciple, if sinners entice you, consent not. Okay, so Proverbs 110, my son, if sinners entice thee or entice you, consent them not or consent not. Now we're going to go through some uh, English expository. There's a lot to be said in the English expository. So we're just going to go on with the little ones first. We'll go through it extensively in the next session. So here we have George Leo Haydock, and the way entice is actually used as deceive. So the way entice is used here is deceive, as Calmet would put it. Pessimum inimicorum genus lod antes. I do not read Greek, but uh, Dr. Kenny, if you're actually watching this, at least you could tell me what this says. Oh wait, this isn't Greek. This is Latin. Okay, I'm spurging all over again. All right. So to entice, according to George Leo Haydock, this is actually to deceive. Now, what this tells me somehow is like where I'm actually in agreement with Jordan Peterson, where he says that eating the apple was not the first sin of Adam and Eve, but it was more of the allowing of deception to take place in their heart, or they were enticed by the snake. My sinners enticed, said it not. They were enticed by the snake and they allowed themselves to be deceived. So it wasn't just simply eating the apple that brought them out of the garden, my folks. They were deceived and they followed it anyway. God doesn't like gullible. I mean, well, not necessarily gullible, but let's say people who are willfully gullible. Right. So let's see what Mr. Benson has to say concerning Proverbs 10. And we're gonna go down to all the way down to 14 because this seems essential because it also talks about the things what these sinners or what these debauched people would do. So, my son, if sinners of any description, entice you, or according to George, if my son, if sinners deceive you to commit sin, any known inquiry, or to omit any known duty, consent thou not, yield not in any degree to their advice, persuasions, or solicitations. Do not allow them. Do not give them this verification that uh, to make blind to yourself that this is actually okay. You actually have to weigh this. So there is a need of discernment here. If they say, "Come in with us, let us lay wait for blood," so they come in groups, and they're also murderers. And I also mentioned this a while in our last stream where Hang on. I need to check if the quality of my mic is better. Stereo mix. Um, mic in front, black panel. Hang on. La 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 la. La 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 la. Front panel black. Yep. I think that sounds better. Does that sound better, guys? I don't know. I'm just testing. Okay, but going back. So if they say come with us, they come in groups. Let us lay wait for blood. So these guys are going to murder someone innocent. This is to shed blood. He does not intend to express their words, for such words would rather affright than inveigle one that was yet a novice in wickedness. But he signifies what was the true nature and would be the consequence of the action in which they wished the person they addressed to join them, and what lay at the bottom of their specious pretenses. Let us look privily for the innocent, for harmless travelers. So these guys are also raiders. A good example would be the Amalekites. They're a nomadic tribe. They make it their lifestyle to actually look for traveling nations, raid, pillage, scavengery, and unsparing bloodshed. So yeah, they would raid and pillage anyone or any country which was within their vicinity. It's kind of also like they're actually the ones who actually have genocidal tendencies. Kind of. No, it's not. They do have genocidal tendencies. They kill you, and then they would take everything you had, and they will not stop with just persons or travelers. Anyone at all at in their sight, and probably including themselves amongst their own kind. For harmless travelers suppose and others that, suspecting no danger, are not prepared for opposition. So these guys, they are wanting to ambush anyone they could trample, and without cause, though they have not provoked us nor deserved this usage from us. This Solomon adds to discover their malignity and baseness, and so to deter the young man from associating with them. It's kind of like saying, let's just pick on people for fun, or I don't know, just for the thrill of it. Let us swallow them up as the grave, which speedily covers and consumes dead bodies. We shall do our work quickly, easily, and without fear of discovery. We shall find all precious substance. As our danger is little, so our profit will be great. Cast in your lot among us, or rather, thou shalt cast your lot among us, that is, thou shalt have a share with us, and that equally and by a lot, although thou art but a novice and we are veterans. Let us all have, or we will have, one purse. Hang on. Excuse me. I'm recording a video right now. Hang on. All right. One purse shall receive all our profits and furnish us with all expenses, so we shall live with great facility and true friendship. Ah, so it's not just about taking the share with one another, but this is sort of like once you share a purse or once you share this commitment to share your spoils, there's also this commitment to being part of this group, to being part of this band of sinners who would kill, ambush, raid, and pillage anyone they could find and trample them to. And once they're done with that, they would take whatever they could spoil, shares it amongst themselves. Like if you partake with these people, it's I mean, you're just as bad as them. Now, what about Mr. Guzix? My son, if sinners entice you. Solomon first warned his son about the danger of bad company. I agree, Paul. Bad company destroys good morals. The actions of some people clearly reveal them to be sinners, more than in the general sense in which we are all sinners. The young must resist the enticements of these men. Significantly, the first instruction and warning in the book of Proverbs speaks to the company we keep and the friendships we make. Yeah, enticements. This is like a strong beguilement, and where, come on, let's do it. Let's do it. Who cares, man? Let's do it. Come on. I mean, it's fun. Nothing's wrong with this one. So I guess with in concordance with Haydock, it is not merely just to deceive, but with the intention, but with the um, hang on, no, that's not it. It's not just basically just to deceive when we say entice. It's not just to deceive, but with the idea making blind to the that the sinners making blind to themselves that this isn't actually a bad thing. So they don't just deceive the one who they invite, they also deceive themselves. They make blind to themselves that when they enticed, or even they themselves already enticed to do something sinful or something really, really terrible, they would just they would they would ignore, they would just like throw out all rationality, all 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 possible ethics, all basic forms in good or bad. They just don't give a crap anymore, so that they would go about their way. Significantly, the first instruction and warning in the book of Proverbs speaks to the company we keep and the friendships we make. There are few more powerful forces and influences upon our life than the friends we choose. It has been said, show me your friends, and I can see your future. It speaks to the great need for God's people to be more careful and wiser in their choice of friends. Yeah, I agree, because Benson also agrees with that one. One purse will receive all our profits and furnish us with all expenses. So we shall live with great facility and true friendship. Once you begin with the band, or you actually agree to share things with the band, essentially you're already part of the band. So if these are your friends, if these are your company, I mean, there is this metacognitive predestined idea that if these people who do these terrible things are your company, then I guess we know who you are or what kind of person you are. Or if not, at least, well, by the least, we would at least identify you as one of them. Do not consent. They can do thee no harm unless thy will join in with them. Not even the devil himself can lead a man into sin till he consents. Okay, you can't blame the devil for it. Not even the devil himself can lead a man into sin till he consents. Until you allow the wiles of the devil to take place in your heart. So whenever temptation or sin attempts to attempts to whisper into your heart, then you must run from that. You must do whatever it takes to make sure that it's it doesn't influence you in the end. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. If your eyes causes you to sin, cut it off. Not merely to physically, not literally to physically sever your body parts, but to cut it off figuratively. Cut it off, like cut it out. Rather, I mean, to make it simple, cut it out. Like, stop whatever it is you're thinking, or if it causes you to sin, look away. I mean, you would know. We would know. Now, Barnes Notes puts it simply. So does Jameson, Fosse, and Brown. Matthew Poole, too. Very, very simple. So Barnes would say here, the first great danger which besets the simple and the young is that of evil companionship. Exactly. When they ask you to be part of them, to be part of their band, to be part of their group, or to, let's say, befriend them, because to consent with them is to actually support what they do. So basically, there is this validation. You become part of the band. It's more than just affirming with what they do. You also affirm with them essentially. You're one of them. The only safety is to be found in the power of saying no to all such invitations. Learn to say no, people. You can't allow, let's say, even the pressure of your peers that are going to do things that you know would compromise your walk with Christ, or by the least, that you know it's sin in the eyes of God. I mean, take for example, yeah. Suppose if I wanted to go out, no, not go out. I wanted to take a beer, and I just drink just right amounts to the point I don't get drunk. That's it. I'd rather enjoy the beer, not get debauched in it. Until a friend of mine would say, "You gotta let loose, man." And I'm all right. Then what does he mean by let loose? If he's gonna make himself into a drunken fool, well, and then you band along with him. Well, that's a sin because you are commanded also to practicing continence, discipline, self-control, which is also the fruits of the spirit. The spirit has discipline, and we ought to do that too. Or let's say, like, we know that drinking isn't really a sin. So you take a trip to the bar, but regardless, you have baby Christians, right? And then while it is true that drinking isn't entirely a sin, it could be that in that instance or that circumstance of time where if he knew that drinking by itself isn't a sin, like, let's say, he could abuse that truth to justify a debaucherous drinking or intake of alcohol. And the New Testament does say about if you cause your brethren to stumble, then that's on you. There's blood in your hands. So you got to be careful. I mean, there will be baby Christians out there. So you got to be careful. Well, we know it's not sin, or not necessarily anything that mentioned in the Bible is, I mean, or if anything that is not sin in the Bible is not sin, we have to be careful because either a baby Christian or let's say another person other than the baby Christian would abuse that truth. So we got to be careful. The safest way to do it is to at least further educate them, have them go through some spiritual maturity. And if you're a strong Christian, then by all means enjoy. Jameson Fosse Brown, a solemn warning against temptation. Okay. Entice, to open the way, And consent, not sin is consenting or yielding to temptation, not in being tempted. This is interesting. This is not mere consent or yielding to it. No, sorry. Sin is in consenting or yielding to temptation, not in being tempted. Yes, this is something you allow. This is something you allow to flow through your veins. This is something you allow to stay. All right. Now, before we go further, I want to go back to David being a peeping tom, and we could and in relation to this beautiful elucidation by JFB. So I'm pretty sure you guys know the story between David and Bathsheba, but I just want to use the story to get to that analogy. So if we're gonna take Jameson Fosse Brown's analogy of consent, say for example, David was walking about in his fine castle while Uriah's out there fighting scumbag David. He saw Bathsheba. Now, noticing what Bathsheba was doing, she was taking a bath, and she's probably, and then in the eyes of David, she's probably all 37 dimensions of hot stuff. And David was being tempted. Now, by itself, that temptation flying across your head is not the sin itself. Or let's say the moment you see a woman taking a bath and you have flying thoughts of just joining her and making out with her, okay, that by itself is not the sin. Dr. Kenny would put it that there are layers of thinking, there are layers of thought. So, by itself, David, David, I mean, David, who saw Bathsheba taking a bath, was not the sin itself. But because he allowed, he allowed, allowed it to linger, to stay in his thought, or he didn't even at least fight it. Look what, then we know the story. He called her to his bed, and he understood that that was Uriah's wife, and he didn't want Uriah to find out. So what does he do? In the facade of fighting off the Philistines, he practically just sent Uriah to his death. And eventually, everyone knew his sin of adultery was found out, where the motivating cause of such was to hide the adulterous crime or sin of David, as where it all began with David allowing himself to be enraptured in the temptation of laying with Bathsheba after he saw uh, Bathsheba after he saw her taking a bath. Now, David could have chosen to look away. The administering of stimulus is not the sin, but it was the reaction to that stimulus. Now, how did he react? Well, certainly he didn't look away. He actually enjoyed what he saw, and he embraced it. He yielded to that. He consented to that. He allowed it to linger. You cannot allow such lingering because, I mean, if you think you can play the game, that fine, linger around me, see if I give in. That's a dangerous gamble. You can't win. You can't gamble with the devil, my friends. Remember, he's also cunning, and we are very much fallible. And he knows the word more than we do. Us debauched, wretched people fall short in the glory of God. So knowing that, he knows how a sinner reacts. So we can't allow that. Matthew Poole, I think this is Smokey's favorite. Sinners eminently so called as in Genesis 13:13. Uh, okay, I'm going to interject here a little bit so while I open a Bible commentary or a Bible app, I'm going to open it up. Open a Bible app. So I could just refer myself to that one. Interjection, interjection. Okay. Genesis 13, verse 13. Sorry, I had plenty of shrimp today. Okay, so Genesis 13:13, it says, "But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly." So these are people given to sin. Psalm 1:1 is like, "Blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly." There's another one here, Psalm 26, verse 9. Verse 26, verse 9. I'm actually putting the microphone. I'm sorry if it's not sounding well with you. "Gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloody men." So basically, they are exhorting already with what Solomon is saying. But David was first with this one, in which he might not be influenced in sin, or he will not be, I mean, even though he was not a sinner, he would not be identified as being with them. Now, I have atheist friends. I mean, we do have that. But there's an entire difference of just being their friend and actually, affirming with them, consenting with them, yielding to them. And the thing is, friends, they can oppose each other, they actually fight. But know this, if your friends tell you to do something that would compromise your walk with God, then don't do it. It's either them or God. Now, as we continue, such as sell themselves to work all manner of wickedness, particularly thieves and robbers, well, in this case, yes, and murderers, as appears from the next verses, as also oppressors and cheaters, by comparing this with Proverbs 119. And 119 says, "So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof." You see, it's the exact same thing from verses 10 to 14. Raid and pillage, murder and spoil. Murder, raid and pillage. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Raid and pillage. Kill anyone that tries to stop you. Just kill anyone you see and take their crap. Make it your own. Gil's exposition. "My son, if sinners entice thee, endeavor to seduce you from the parents. Oh, endeavor to seduce you from, I ought to have this bolded. Endeavor to seduce you from your parents." Now, concerning that, we talked about verse 9, where obeying your parents is exhorted in hope that you would walk godly. It will be a wreath to your head and a chain around thy neck. And we know that wisdom dignifies you. We know that it makes you somebody of high regard. That's what that I mean. It makes you appear that way, and you gotta be more than your appearance. You also gotta be able to. You also gotta be more than just a facade of wisdom. You do have to practice that. But in the case being all, and in the case being also that to tie it around your neck or to just tie it around your head is 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 a strong suggestion that you should not let go of it. You should not go far from it. It shouldn't. You do whatever it takes that it doesn't depart from you. That's why you wear it around your neck. How easy it is. How easy is it to actually lose your necklace or your head the ornaments that you put in your neck, put around your head, or how easy is it to lose your earrings when it's stuck in your ear? That's also the idea. You better make sure you don't let go of it. It should stay with you. All right. So endeavor to seduce you from your parents and draw thee aside from them, from listening to their instructions, advice, and commands, and make use of all plausible arguments to persuade you to join with them in the sins they are addicted unto and are continually employed in. For this is not to be understood of such who are sinners by nature and through infirmity of the flesh, as all men are, but of notorious sinners. Yeah, we sin too, but there's a difference between, falling short and actually allowing this to flow spiritually and even in your through your mindset, or sinners by nature and through infirmity live in sin, who are guilty of the grossest enormities, who live in sin and give up themselves to work all manner of wickedness. Sin is their trade and business. This is what they do, and the constant course of their lives. They are hardened, impudent. See what happens? Yeah, like remember when Haydock says that to entice is the means to deceive. So look at them. They are hardened, impudent, and daring, and not content to sin themselves, but do all they can to draw in others and to pursue. It's kind of like also to validate their cause that they do, that they try to find people that they can drag to validate it, make it appear as if, or to make believe to themselves that this is not actually a bad thing. Now, in this case, this is actually robbers, thieves, and raiders. But those who try, but let's say in our modern times, like saying getting drunk is okay, or let's say they hide that in a sense where like in the facade of you got to learn to let loose, man. You only get to do this once. Yes, that is the enticement to deceive you or to make blind to yourself that hey, maybe he's right. I should let loose. But then again, there has to be that discernment. Now, and to preserve youth from falling into such bad company is this exhortation given in this tender, affectionate, and moving manner next to the fear of God in regard to parents. Is this caution given to shun the company of wicked men, which young men are liable to be drawn into? Yeah, that happens. I was in that spot too, and it's a fatal consequence. Consent thou not. How does Gills exhort this one? Yield not to their persuasion. Same thing as JSF and uh, Benson would. No, Guzex does, rather. Benson, yes, allows that too. Yeah, the same thing. Yield in any degree at all, right? So, Gil, yield not to their persuasions, listen not to their solicitations, show no liking and an approbation of them. Approbation is to approve or make approve of something, or something that is approved, or there's another word for that. Approve, approvable, um, affirmed. Like it's I'm not going to stay there. Assent neither by words nor deeds. Do not say, thou wilt. Say, I will not. I will not. Sorry. And abide by it. Be deaf to all their entreaties. Not necessarily literally deaf to it, but you get the idea. Like, don't listen to them, right? Last, we have Geneva Study Bible. We're going to look into the other commentaries too. I mean, there's also a Bible Illustrator's commentary, which we'll look in first when we return. So, Geneva Study Bible, my son, if sinners entice you, consent them not. That is the wicked who do not have the fear of God. Now, fear is not like, not necessarily that, like, if you do this, God's gonna punish you. It's not. But technically, it's kind of like it's scaring you, sure, but this is not for the sake of just scaring you, just so you could actually that you actually just obey. Like, I mean, as a Christian, we know what God has done for us, and we know what God expects from us too. We know that He has been merciful and gracious to us, and knowing that after all that He's done, how could we, how could we further disappoint Him? It isn't being scared of God, but actually having this sense of humility and shame. Like, how would God feel, or how would I represent God if I do this? Would I glorify Him, or would I smear Him? Like, you're not afraid. I mean, you're not afraid that He will be offended as to punish you, but more like you are afraid that you might offend them. Like, the believer will offend God. That is his bigger concern. Right? I mean, of course, nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be punished. But I mean, there's that. But that's not the core of his concern. I mean, if God would chastise or punish, that's actually more mercy than actually just cutting his life short or ending him. So there's that common grace, which is something that you just can't abuse. Now let's. Pulpit can wait. Let's listen to Kiel and Dilic. These are Germans, I think. The General Council of Proverbs 1:9 is here followed by a more special warning. My son is emphatically repeated. The intensive from, I can't read Hebrew, signifies men to whom sin has become a habit, thus vicious and wicked. See? My son is emphatically repeated. The intensive from sinners, I think this is sinners, signifies men to whom sin has become a habit, thus vicious and wicked. Yeah, I drew the distinction here. Like, there's a difference between falling short, you sin and you fall short, and actually allow this willful affirmation and yielding to sin, to wickedness, mm, To open is not denom, to make or wish to make a. The meaning to entice obtains from the root meaning of the kal, for it is related to it as pandere, januam, to patere, to open, to make accessible, susceptible, namely to persuade. Yes, again, this is something you allow to either enter you or linger you, to allow it to linger in your thoughts. It's another, like, and like I said, it's another, I mean, it's one thing to actually have these passing thoughts, or these thoughts just meeting your head, meeting your mind. And it's another thing to, as as the call, according to the call, to make accessible, to make susceptible, namely to persuade, that you let these things linger, you let these things in and linger until the time you get persuaded. Now, Jesus also warns you that you can't play with sin, and even he himself can't guarantee that you'll be able to get away from it after you allow this. Now, if you were able to escape, then kudos, but it is a lot better to not entertain such thoughts. The warning is as brief as possible, a call of alarm back from the abyss, and the form, I can't read Hebrew, to agree to be willing. See what's time. I'm going to read the lexicon, and we'll get back to this one. The performative is wanting, as in 2 Samuel 19:14, where it says, I can do this one. 2 Samuel 14:19, and the king's. Hang on, is it one? No, it's 19:14. My bad. Sorry, guys. Whoops. 19:14. And he bowed the heart of all the men of Judah, even as the heart of one man, so that they sent this word unto the king: Return thou and all thy servants. What about Psalm 113, 139:20? 139:20. For they speak against you wickedly, and your enemies take your name in vain. Uh-huh. Like these are people who think that slandering is okay. So, and instead, First Kings, First Kings, hang on, chapter 20, verse 8. It says here, and all the elders and all the people said unto him, Hearken not unto him, nor consent. Oh, would you look at that? Let's go back a few verses. Verse 7. Then the king of Israel called all the elders of the land and said, Mark, I pray you, and see how this man seeketh mischief. For he sent unto me for my wives, and for my children, and for my silver, and for my gold, and I denied him not. And all the elders and all the people said unto him, Hearken not unto him, nor consent. Wherefore he said unto the messengers of Benadad, Tell my lord the king, all that thou didst send for your servant at the first I will do, but this thing I may not do. And the messengers departed and brought him word again. And Benadad sent unto him and said, The gods do so unto me, and more also, if the dust of Samaria shall suffice for handfuls for all people that follow me. And the king of Israel answered and said, Tell him, let not him that girdeth on his harness boast himself as he putteth it off. You see? He actually thinks that smearing people with false with slander is actually okay. See, uh, there's plenty to go to first. Actually, we'll read one from the Bible illustration. So stop sharing the screen for a bit, and I'll actually. Uh, mm, I now know how you feel praise. You're clicking your tongue, trying to transition through this smoothly. Uh, Biblical Illustrator commentary. Yep, this is it. Okay, open that. We're still focusing on verse 10. Verse 10, verse 10, verse 10. Sinful enticements. Vice, by which sinners entice us to vice. Let's just read a small one. Youth compelled, dangerous. Fight of. Yeah, let's just start with this one. Sinful Enticements by Matthew Henry. Okay. So according to Bible illustrations, I'm gonna share it again. Here we go. Here we go. Yep, sinful enticements. This is again quoted by Matthew Henry. Right. So sinful enticements. How industrious wicked people are to seduce others into the paths of the destroyer. Sinners love company and sin. In the angels that fell were tempters almost as soon as they were sinners. They do not threaten or argue, but entice with flattery and fair speech. Ah, so even nice people are so even the devil is capable of being nice, capable of flattery, capable of sounding good, appearing polite, appearing, hey man, I mean no harm. They're not gonna argue or threaten you, and because when you're threatened or you're being argued upon, then there's going to be that resistance. They don't want that. They don't want any resistance. They just want to make sure that that flows through your spirit. But with the word of God, which is also the sword and shield of your spirit, you'll be able to combat these. There's no way that they could fool you. So, with flattery and fair speech, with a bait, they draw the unwary young man to the hook. So, basically, they're fishing, and we're the fish. But they mistake if they think that by bringing others to partake with them in their guilt, and to be bound, as it were, in the bond with them, they shall have the less to pay themselves. Yes. Remember when I said about if you cause your brother to stumble, uh, his blood is on your hands too? So dragging people along doesn't actually lessen your accountability. It just makes it worse for you. And in dragging them into your sinful shenanigans, they also get this accountability. But because you drag them along with you in order to validate your debauchery, well then, I guess we know how it is. That's just additional uh, judgment upon you. For they will have so much the more. See, I mean, I just unnecessarily repeated it already. For they will have so much more to. Hang on, put green. For they will have so much more to answer for. You dragging other people, causing them to sin, to validate it, dragging them along in your shenanigans, dragging them along in your debauchery, dragging them along to, let's say, false heresies, them practicing it as sinful, but you condoning this and having people join in with you, that is more of a judgment upon you, because this is something you allow and promote and let people do, and because of you they do this now, and you being the source of that sin which you caused them to do, that is more judgment on you. Telling them that this is okay, to validate you, in which you are literally doing the thing that you know is sin, and yet you would go out there and drag people into it to validate yourself. You already doing it and having people doing it too along with you is bigger judgment. So be careful. This is Satan's antics, and he pulled it off with Eve. He does sin, and to make things worse, he drags along people. So that's more judgment on him. To plead ignorance like he made me do it is one thing. I mean that's still bad. That's still inexcusable. You can't plead ignorance. But to deceive others, just to validate you, making blind to yourself the convictions of your sinful shenanigans, that is a bigger judgment. Yeah. So I guess that'll conclude our studying. So, what have we learned today? Well, you cannot give place to the devil. You cannot give place to sin. If it tries to enter your soul, if it tries to enter, if it seeks to flow through your veins, well, you can't allow that, because you can say that you're a strong Christian, and then you probably will get out of it, but it's not a guarantee, because the power of influence is like the power of its influence is great, that even Jesus Christ himself, that he can't guarantee that you'll be able to slip out into it the moment you allow it to grip you. There is no guarantee of escape nor fighting it back. Don't allow people to break your testimony, and don't allow your compromise also to let baby Christians stumble. Well, I'm going to be signing out now. So remember, my son, if sinners entice thee, consent them not. This is Boki Ken, and this is session number 2 of Bible reading in Proverbs.